Las cosas que necesito en la vida ya están aquí. Las cosas que necesito en la vida ya están aquí. I am free, free as a bird now, with my feathered wings. I am free, free as a bird now, with my feathered wings.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Camino Cafe. I am Lee Brennan and I am so happy that you are here with us today, whether you are watching our YouTube channel or listening on our podcast. We are so happy to have you here. As many of you know, if you've been listening to any of our past podcasts, my whole philosophy is that this is supposed to be like when we stopped for that second pilgrim breakfast, or we stopped to have a little snack in the afternoon or dinner. It's just an opportunity to talk to fellow pilgrims and to have some fun and to connect with everyone. So today we kind of switch roles. I am with Jose from El Camino People, and he was kind enough to interview me last week, and now he's returning the favor and letting me interview him. And, you know, Jose, you probably have seen his Instagram or his Facebook posts and his podcast, and you know that his tagline is walk with us or walk with me. And
walk with us. It's funny because I always say, you know, and the Camino People at the beginning, it was just myself. Now there's some other people behind that is helping, but yeah, it's always walk with us because I don't think you will never walk alone. And, you know, the Camino and in life, you never walk alone. So it's always walk with us. It's always a family. It's always a team. It's always a group.
Well, I started following you. I just want to mention this and then we'll do the official welcome. But I started following you months ago. I think before your Instagram had the big crash, which we can talk about. Not your fault. But one of the things I've always loved about you is that you're always highlighting the people of the Camino. And we'll get deeper into that. But let's first start with just letting our listeners and our viewers know where you are in the world, and we'll go from there.
Thank you for having me here. And thank you for letting me for once relax, because I know what it feels to be on the other side. And today I don't have notes. I don't have to care about anything. I can go out of a script. It's not my fault. So thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you for creating such a place, because, you know, one of the things that I talk all the time and I say, and I'm so grateful for the Camino, is that even these years, you know, that the last 2 years that we haven't been able to walk the Camino, there's been so many great people like you, like other many podcasts out there, Guillermo, you know, the Pilgrims podcast. Everybody's creating these places where people can share, and, you know, those cafes, those beers that we have in the albergue, those times on the round table, like we weren't able to have it, but in a way we created them online. And you know, a lot of people will think, why you interview another podcaster? I'm like, this is not about anything. It's about, you know, the love of the Camino. And it's just great that there's so many different people like us, you know, creating different, because I think we have different styles and different stories, and that's the beauty. So I'm right now in Pamplona. It is a cloudy, horrible day. Last week it was super sunny. And lately this week has been rainy, but finally one of the beautiful things is I can see pilgrims through my window. And lately we've been seeing, you know, a couple of pilgrims every day. So little slowly, but finally the Camino is getting back to life.
Yeah, that's one of the things I wanted to ask you. So how many pilgrims would you say you're seeing a day walking through?
I think probably walking through Pamplona 10 to 15 a day. So really, really very few. And as far as I know, the Albergue de Roncesvalles is still closed. They opened the hostal and they allow the pilgrims to be there. And few albergues here are having people. And I see, you know, when I run in town and go to errands, you see a couple of pilgrims here and there, but still pretty few.
Yeah. How did that feel the first day when you actually started seeing people walking again?
Weird, you know, one of the things that is funny is I was the first one walking from Roncesvalles to Pamplona with this whole COVID situation was open. So I remember the first day, you know, asking my brother, can you take me up to Roncesvalles? And as you know, I'm a runner. So I was kind of like hiking, running, and I walked from Roncesvalles to Pamplona. And that day I remember I posted on Facebook and like, I walked the Camino, but it wasn't the Camino, because the Camino without pilgrims is not Camino, it's just a trail. And that's the magic of the Camino. So right now, when I see pilgrims, you know, with the backpacks, with the sail, I was the other day waiting for a friend at the plaza, the city hall in Pamplona, and I saw a pilgrim, and the smile, the feeling of getting lost, it's so great. It's just the beauty of being in Pamplona, and also, the most painful thing, because they are walking and I'm not. And I would like to, to grab them all, talk to them. But also it's one of the weird feelings, because most of them, they just started, so they didn't have, the Camino yet there. It will come later. And that one of the things that I realized, that a lot of pilgrims in Pamplona, they're just, starting, warming up. But it's just amazing to see, that they are finally getting alive. And also all the hospitaleros, cleaning the albergues, the stores opening, the bars getting full, just getting back to life.
That must be such a great feeling. Now, are you originally from Pamplona? Did you grow
Yeah,
up?
we say here, PTV, Pamplona de toda la vida, from Pamplona all my life. So I was born here and raised here, and yeah. Beautiful city to live. If you're thinking of moving up to a place, beautiful city to live.
Yes. That's always in the back of my mind. Pamplona is a wonderful place. And I just wonder, was the Camino always on your radar? What was it like growing up, knowing that, you had this magical, historical thing running literally through your town, but, when you were growing up, was it something you even thought about?
I guess it's one of those things that it's always there. So you do with the school, you do one day, or you go with the friends and you hike one day, and it's always present. No, you always see the cells on the floor, the pilgrims coming to your town. But because usually, Spanish, we do it in the summer when you're on holidays, and in the summers I was always working or in a summer camp or something. So it was something that I will do it one day when I get older. One of those things that always when we have the time and we are young, we believe that going to another country, travel far away, is something much more valuable. And we forget, and we don't value what we have close to our houses. And I think for me, it was one of the things that I didn't value till I did it. And that the first day that I was able to walk, and now I'm like, why should I go walking somewhere else if I have the Camino in my house? So for me, one of the funniest things is every day, my normal run routine is going up to Fitur, that is the Camino, and seeing pilgrims over there and coming back.
Wow, I'm so envious. That sounds amazing.
But I have to let them go. That's the hard part.
Exactly. So what made you finally walk?
So finally, after years, I work abroad. I was, finally, and I have one summer that I didn't have anything really to do. The holidays with my family were already planned. And I have kind of a month where I have the time and I was able to say, I'm not going to plan. I've always been the one that has been planning. I was the one in charge. And I'm like, no, this time, I know the day that I was going to start. I didn't know the day I was going to end. And as the Caminos in life, that changed. Something happened and I have to, change my Camino and start 1 week after. So, and that's the beauty, one of the things that I think a lot, if I started the day that I was supposed to start, how will my Camino will be? And if I haven't started the day I start, or decisions that you make, but at the end, that's life and that's the Camino. So finally that summer, I was like, okay, finally it's time. I have the time and as you always say, you always go to the Camino, and the Camino, I always say in my interviews, you don't decide to go to the Camino calls you, and you just decide to answer the call or not.
Exactly, right? The seed is planted. So you have walked, I think I was looking on your website, something like 5-6 times.
I have walked many times, but
you walk it every day.
But if I count the full Caminos, I walk the full Camino, the Frances and the Portuguese coastal, and many times Musia Fisterra, because every time I go to Galicia or I go to Santiago for work or for something, I always try to do a couple of days over there and at least finish it. And also I did the Camino Aragonés, that is truly beautiful, and many days on the Norte, but I haven't completed the whole Norte.
So it sounds like you and I both believe that a seed is planted, the Camino calls you. At that point, you're going. It's just a matter of when, right? What do you think it is about the Camino that calls us back, right? Like you do one, and then it seems like every pilgrim that I speak with, they've either gone again or numerous times, or they can't wait to get back. So what is it about the Camino, in your opinion, that keeps calling us back? Why do we keep doing it?
I think it's funny because I heard, it was at between 60 and 80% of the pilgrims come back to the Camino. And I think, that nowadays we are so busy in our lives that for me, the Camino is like the time where I refill my battery. It's that time that I go to what matters, today's is because there's nothing easier than the Camino. I'm like, you wake up, you dress up, you get your backpack, You start walking with friends, you take your time to meditate, you take your time to walk alone, then you have your first cafe, tortilla, then fun time, then get to the albergue, then have fun, then sleep, and then repeat. It's easy. You don't have to think about anything else, just with yourself. And that's the beautiful and the hard part of the Camino. But I guess, with everybody that I talk is what gives you the energy to keep going on a normal day. People do sports, people run, people meditate. And I think for once you discover the Camino, it's a mix of all of those together.
Yeah, well said. Well said. What do you think it is about the Camino that I notice about we pilgrims that we like to talk about our Camino, right? Like
Really?
Really. I compare us to like golfers, like we can describe our Camino like down to, so I started this day and then I did this. What do you think it is about the Camino that makes us want to talk about it and makes us want to hear about other people's Caminos?
I don't know. I think, that's like probably like having babies or dogs. When you have a baby, you don't care about other people talking about the baby, but when you don't have one and people talk about the baby, it's like, I don't care about your stupid baby. But the other day someone told me, I'm like, if I have to explain the Camino to you, you don't get it. And if you get it, I don't have to explain it to you. And when we find a pilgrim like you and I'm like, we never met in our lives. We have chat a couple of times here online, but the connection is right there. And when we start talking, and like every time that I do the interview, I feel like I can be with that person for 5, 6, 7 hours, just listening. Yeah. Because that's the beauty of the Camino. The Camino brings everyone to the same level. I remember walking the Camino Portuguese, and there were these kids, from Madrid, 18 years old, right out of the school. And this was this teacher, on their 60s from the US. And they were sharing a beer, sharing stories, and you were like, where else in the world can you see something like that happen?
Yeah.
Being so respectful, just listening, learning. And they weren't the kind of kids that they will think were there. They were like wearing a green, the kind of like, but they were there in the Camino. So they were searching. And there was somebody there that was willing to talk to them. And once you go into that mood, I don't know, I think it's, something that, and also when you walk the Caminos, what you were saying, something that gets so deep into you that I think, as a pilgrim, you have to pass it on. If you're a pilgrim and you don't share your journey, I don't know what you're doing, It's maybe one of those things that we feel, and also it's so selfish because at the end, I always say that my podcast is a little selfish because I'm the lucky one that gets to experience, talking with pilgrims, getting back to the Camino and being at the Camino every week, one day after another, thanks to interviewing pilgrims. So for me, also the podcast and talking to you is another way to experience my Camino. Because as we always said, the Camino starts one day, but it never finishes. There's many ways of walk without walking.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Like I can't get over all of the Camino things that have happened in my life after Santiago. Right. Mm-hmm. And this past 2 years during the pandemic, I feel that I have been able to make so many connections with fellow pilgrims that my Camino family has grown. So it's really been so fun interviewing people. And I wanted to ask you, so you're a marathoner. Right? Great.
I do a marathon a year.
Marathoner. Well, that's a marathoner.
That qualifies.
I think that's impressive. So I'm imagining that when you got ready to walk your Camino, the physical part probably wasn't a worry for you. But for all of us, I think when we walk the Camino, the beginning, like you said, when people are coming through Pamplona, they're still kind of in that physical element, right? Getting used to their blisters or whatever their physical journey is going to be. But, and then, we kind of go through that part of the Camino where it becomes a little more emotional. And then there's that third segment where it's joyful. It's kind of the reconciliation part of it. So I just wonder if we could talk a little bit about your Caminos. And when you look back, what would you say was your biggest challenge? Did you find that there was a time that there was a big physical challenge, or was there something else? What was the hardest day for you? And how did you overcome
I think, I don't think I have any physical challenge because I say, I'm so used to backpack. I'm so used to running. And even in the first days I was carrying, my backpack was probably close to 15 kilos. I still carry every day 2 or 3 liters of water, extra food, a camping gas. Some of the stuff I've left in my house, but some of the stuff I carry with me till I finish there. I carry a package of, pre-cooked pasta. And I'm I'm going to cook it, and I cook it and finish there. That was it. I never used it in the whole Camino, but it was with me. Just I'm so strong-headed that it was with me all the time. I think the hardest part, and it's one of the parts that I think a lot of people skip because they're afraid, is the meseta. It's that time that you have time to be with yourself. Even though there is a lot of talk with pilgrims, there's so many days that you have 1 hour, 2 hours with yourself, and that's probably the hardest part. Because as you say, at the beginning you just focus on the physical, you just have to go all the way up. It's on Jan, so it's more the warm up, it's more the being nervous. It's like the first day of school, you're so nervous, you don't know where you're gonna make friends, where is gonna sleep who, where I'm gonna sit down. But then as you get going, you start making your family, you feel more comfortable with the blisters and everything. They don't, there's no pain anymore. Just body just get used to it. It's like when you are running a marathon, after the 30th kilometer, your body doesn't care, it's more your mind.
Yeah.
And I think the Camino is the same, in the marathons, they call it the wall. It's on the kilometer 30, 32 kilometers that your body is already, done. This body says, I'm not going, but you have to keep going with your head. And I think the Camino and the Meseta is the same. The body is so used that doesn't matter if you have blisters or whatever. It's more a problem of, yourself and being with yourself and, that time alone. And I guess that's the part when you all the little things that happen in your life start coming out. And that's when you decide what happened. And that's also one of the most beautiful parts of the Camino. So for me, it has a huge, great memory from the Meseta for those times that you start having, deeper conversation with other pilgrims. You also get to know other pilgrims on a deeper level because you have talked too many days, and all that, bar chit chat, where are you from, what movie do you like, is gone. So I think it helps to get into deeper, subjects.
Yeah. Did you find that more difficult to go into the deeper part for yourself?
I think the Camino prepares you for that. And I think that's also, the beauty of the Camino, that is so well designed, that has everything. So once you are in that moment, if you have walked the Camino and you're truly to yourself and everything comes eventually. It doesn't have to be, really in the Meseta. Some people have it in Santiago, some people can be in Muxia, some people can be in their houses once they come back. But I think it's a process. And some people have it on the second Camino.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I'm kind of curious about, as a marathoner, you spend a lot of time running by yourself, right? And,
yeah.
And walking by yourself. And there's a lot of research out there right now that is kind of talking about mindfulness, that how when we're walking, it's kind of at the pace that the brain moves. Mm-hmm. And so since you're a marathoner, I want to talk about that. Like, do you find a difference in your mindset of how it is when you're running for a marathon? So let's say you're running 15, 18 kilometers one day for your running. If you were to compare your mindset for that versus your mindset when you're just walking the Camino or just taking a walk, do you find a difference in how you are in your mindfulness?
I think usually when I'm running, just training, I try to zoom off, just to think on nothing. For me, the running is the time off, the time to just think about nothing. But when I'm walking, I think now after years of walking, I'm conscious, I'm feeling myself when I'm walking, and I know what I'm doing, I'm walking the time. As when I'm running, I'm just, running. It's white. There's nothing, things come and go, but you try to focus on nothing because that really affects how you run. You can be going faster or slower, feeling more tired. So when you run, you try to, just clear your mind. As when I'm walking, I'm usually thinking of something, being conscious of my body, what is going on, what is happening this week, trying to decompress the ideas that I have for my business, what is going on, how I can fix things, this beautiful tree. As when I'm running, I'm just going for it.
That's so interesting. So when you run, do you listen to music?
No, I quit because the music is, first of all, usually in professional races, when even any kind of race is illegal to run with music, because I guess you can probably, hurt somebody if you don't hear anyone coming in. But for me, I think I used to rollerblade, and with rollerblade, one of the things that I realized on skiing, when you get music, you empower yourself much more. You can have music, like you start listening to Rocky and you feel those stairs going up, bam, bam, bam. So I think with running is the same. If you listen to music, the beat of the music is going to tell you what is going to be your pace. And if you don't have that, you start feeling all your body. You're feeling, the pain. You're feeling where it hurts, how it hurts, why it's hurting, where it's hurting, what pace I'm looking. Because at the end, when you run a marathon, it's not about running fast. It's just, keeping that pace for a long, long time. Mm-hmm. And that's usually the hardest part. That's why, usually marathoners are older and fast runners are much younger, and fast runners are pure muscle and marathoners are just skinny people. Because when you go for a long distance, it's the brain that runs. Your body has to be ready if you want to do a good mark. But more than anything, it's just, I've seen people super fit and everything on the floor, and the Camino happens the same. I see huge guys walking the Camino just destroy.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, definitely. I think that, when I'm running, what I think about is all the pain I'm in. It's great that. So when you look at people right now who are considering walking a Camino, things are a little bit different right now. Would you have some recommendations on maybe how they should prepare a little bit differently than what we would have done in the past?
One of the main reasons right now, and I think it's been a big issue over Facebook and everything, is remember that mask is mandatory in Spain, even on trails.
Oh, wow.
And that's a big difference. And as I say, I'm not going into the point of if, I agree or disagree, but right now is the law. So if you don't do it, then you're going to have, and there was a couple of posts on Facebook, people saying, I'm not going to wear it. I don't, your own decision. But as a pilgrim, you are representing a community of people that takes care of the people where you go. And that's, the values. And I think that all pilgrims, we stand for. And if you are against the wearing a mask, so maybe it's not the time to go to Spain. So I guess probably, if you are coming right now to Spain, and this will probably change during the summer, get comfortable with your mask. Find a mask that, you feel comfortable walking, because there's many masks that they are, for sports. And right now when I go to spinning, I have to do spinning with a mask. And it's a big difference, because the intake of oxygen is quite different. So, and the amount of, CO2 that you exhale. So getting used to that's a big change, because people, probably in older ages, or when, respiratory problems and things like that, walking 20K normal is one thing, walking 20K with a mask is another thing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I definitely notice a difference when I'm walking with my mask. And you're going to run a marathon in a mask.
No, the marathon, because you go with a PCR and, there's a test and there's regulations in place. Okay. We will have to wear the mask at the beginning where, the whole crowd, but when you're running. And right now, when you are running here in Spain, you are allowed to take your mask off, but you have to be 1.5 meters from anyone else in the place. Okay. But as for hiking, last summer, it wasn't mandatory to wear a mask hiking. Right now it is. And that's a big difference. And I know that, the Camino, there's going to be no one there, but remember, there is police. There is pilgrims that may be looking like pilgrims, but there are police that is taking care of all the pilgrims. And there's, when you cross a village, or when you go, the other day was someone talking that they saw pilgrims in Santiago. I'm like, it's not about what you believe or not. It's about being respectful to the people that is, open their city to you. And I think, as pilgrims, we deserve that. If you don't agree, just wait for probably, in a couple of months, it will be over and we don't have to wear a mask. But till then, right now, this is how it is. And I think other than that, just calling ahead to the albergues and getting more ready that maybe, food is not, right now, all the restaurants are open. But the other day we saw one of the little villages in the Camino Portuguese that was closed. So maybe carrying an extra, lunch or some snacks in your backpack in case something happens. It's always good.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. So everyone remember the mask. Get a mask that you're going to be comfortable with in case you are, if that is still the law. Of course, as pilgrims, we want to respect that. So having a mask that is comfortable, that I
would suggest one mask for walking that you feel comfortable. One sport mask, or maybe having a couple that you can, wash. And having an FP2 for when you get into the albergues, the restaurants, just to be sure, just in case, and maybe having your normal ones for, when you go to just walking on the city or something to feel more comfortable. But
yeah, that's a really good tip, having a couple, and then also having that extra food just in case, and that calling ahead, right? I think that's super respectful right now for the albergue owners, to have an idea of who's coming, so that they can, if they're going to be serving dinner, that they have a good idea of what number of people are coming so that we don't have food waste and things like that. So, I just was thinking, I'm curious, would you ever run a full Camino?
It's funny because I'm not running the Camino, but I'm going with someone that is running the Camino at the end of July. Oh. So we're going to be running from San Juan to Santiago to raise funds for a non-profit here in Pamplona. And the whole idea is to run the Camino. And he's already done it a couple of times. And he's going to do it again. His name is Ricardo Abad. And he will be running to get funds for the non-profit that runs the albergue here in Pamplona in the Calle Mayor. The association is called AMFAS. It's people with disabilities that they run albergues. They do a lot of things. And this year is the 60th anniversary. So we'll be running from San Juan to Santiago, hopefully in a week. That's the idea.
In a week you're starting that?
No, in a week from San Juan to Santiago. I will be starting that at the end of July. So we'll start running on July 26th.
July 26th. I cannot wait to see your photos and hear about that journey.
We will call everyone that is in the Camino to go out and say hi, and it's going to be a big challenge, but it's for a good cause. And the beauty of this guy is he's a crazy runner, much more, crazy than me. And like he has a world record of running one marathon every day for 360 something days. So yeah, things like that.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Impressive.
And everything he does, he always has a good cause behind, it's always running for a nonprofit, for a cause. So that's what is the beauty of this project, that we are running from someone. And the whole idea is, that the Camino is for everyone. And that's the goal that we also, look forward, that the Caminos will be so inclusive in any possible way.
Awesome. Oh, that's great. I'm so impressed that you're going to.
But I'm not running. I will be running just a small parts with him.
Well, hey, it's more than I'm going to be running this summer, so I'm impressed. So let's kind of pivot a little bit and talk about El Camino People. How did it start? Where was that seed planted? And if you can kind of just give everyone an idea of your philosophy behind it and the things that you're doing, because I'm seeing lots of different pockets. You've got the nonprofit, you've got helping people as a guide, as a consultant. I mean, you've got a lot of cool things going on there. So
it is so funny because someone just asked me today, like, what are you guys? And I'm like, I don't even know what I am. It's one of these, it's like the Camino. You say, I just keep adding layers and layers. Mm-hmm. So the beginning of this was when I walk my Camino, I hate writing. I'm horrible. My spelling, my grammar is horrible, and I know it. So I try to write, but I'm not, every day I ended up, posting 10 pictures on Instagram and sending to my family. And after the Camino, I'm like, wow, there's pictures, but they don't say much about my Camino. At the end, what I remember was the people that I met, the stories that they carry, the stories they tell me. And I was like, there is no one sharing the stories of the Camino. And one of the things that surprised me the most, living in Pamplona, I'm like, there's so many people that go through my town with incredible stories that nobody knows. Nobody's telling their stories. So I was walking, I was in an entrepreneur program at the time, and I was like thinking, I need to do something to change this. So I started the Instagram, I started working. I'm like, what? Yeah, the Camino People, because it's about the people. At the time, a lot of people told me, I'm like, this is for people of New York. I didn't even knew that the guy was doing the people of New York. So it was totally apart, but at the same time. So I start asking people, going on Instagram, like, can I share your story? I'm like, yeah, of course. Can I share it? And grow. And suddenly I was thinking, this is taking so much time. And one of the little projects that was born on that was making an app where you can upload all your pictures. And when you finish your Camino, we'll print it for you and just give you as a present. Because for my Camino, one of the things I realized when I arrived to Pamplona is like, I have thousands of pictures.
Yes.
And where are those pictures? In my hard drive. I finally made a little book, but it's hard because at the end, you don't have the time to go back to every day to think about it. So I was thinking maybe an app that every day as a meditation, you choose, oh, this is my top 5 pictures, and this is what I want to write. Or this is what I want to, just audio recording. And when you finish your Camino, you just send it and they will be printed for you. And that was how the idea at the beginning was like, maybe an app. And since growing, the community was growing. So we created the website. So it was the Camino People, the Instagram, and the website where people will send me their stories. And I will put it beautifully and we will post it, but it was mostly written. Then suddenly, businesses here start contacting me as a kind of like consultant for an app, for companies here with the City Hall. We open an all-inclusive center here for Camino Santiago, and that was kind of maybe I'm putting so much time and effort into this that there's something I should make part of my way of living. So that's when I created kind of like the company. So we started working on. I was doing my MBA at the time, and I'm like, all these people in the MBA were going through the coaches and all this process and the mindfulness, but we do all of this in company. I'm like, there's no way, big CEOs, CFOs want to take half an hour, 1 hour of the day to chat with someone in their office when they have all the stuff that they have to do. But what will happen if we take these people out in an environment so great as the Camino that lets everyone on the same level, helps everyone to open up and helps everyone to uncompress? And that's when, the idea of taking people to the Camino de Santiago as coaching them through the process, taking, team building teams, taking, big people that is having a lot of stress and taking into the Camino, maybe a 5-day Camino, maybe a 10-day Camino, maybe 3-day Camino. And that's what the idea was born. But then, the pandemic came and everything was put on hold. Right. So that was kind of like where the business people was like, are you a business? I'm like, yeah, but I haven't made a dime yet. So the whole idea was always help the pilgrims. And then when the pandemic came, I was talking with a couple of friends and I'm like, we need to do something to help all these businesses that have lost the power. And the albergues, the business model that they run. And that's what I do, help young entrepreneurs to design the business model and look for the ideas, look for the niche, help them with the canvas, with the marketing, how to do this. And suddenly we have all these great hotels, albergues, businesses that weren't designed to host people that are local or do different things. They were just designed for pilgrims that always come, pilgrims that were always there. They didn't have to do anything. The pilgrims were always there. Suddenly they're not. So we're talking with a couple of albergues, and it's like, we need to help them redesign their business. We need to help them be more efficient. We need to help them find ways to be more sustainable, more eco-friendly, more accessible for everyone. Things of way to communicate better, to create different programs for the Camino while there's no Camino, because the Camino has the valleys, March, April start going up, but then during Christmas there's nothing. So why not create programs that can go for local populations? Like, maybe a family from Pamplona can rent an albergue for a couple of days to do a party in a lower season or something like that. So we created a nonprofit, and we are working with the government and designing different projects to help, always that idea of the Camino for everyone. And that's where the Camino People, the nonprofit, came in. We wanted the first project that we had, but it was tricky. We want to bring, people that work in the medic, doctors, nurses, people that work in all the kind of people that, give their life and their heart during the COVID, from Italy and from Spain, and do a Camino with all of them together. But at the problem, we were trying to do selling, gear online, and because we didn't have the nonprofit status, it wasn't able to sell anything online. So we have to put it on hold. So now we are having a couple of projects that have kind of like the same idea, always keep back to the Camino, but we haven't them yet so developed. So people will be hearing about them soon. But always the whole idea is, give back to the Camino. I think the Camino gives us so much that we deserve to give back something.
Yes, and I think you're always doing really interesting Facebook Lives, and you didn't even touch on your podcast. So I think this morning you told me that you've done over 100 podcasts.
Yeah, so we are going to go closer to 100 pretty soon.
Yeah. So kind of talk to me about, like, it sounds like this thing really evolved for you, right? Like you started it off like just trying to think about having an app, and then next thing you know, so it's almost sounding like a Camino to me, like this really evolved in stages to
That's
have
it.
a nonprofit.
That's the thing. If someone tells me, 3, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, when I started walking the Camino, that today I was going to be, I'm like, next week, at the end of June, as I told you, I'm going to a premiere about Caminos worldwide in Madrid. I'm like, who was going to tell me? I help people, with the crowdfunding campaigns for movies about the Camino. I help all different nonprofits that come to Spain. I'm like, that's the beauty of the Camino. You never know what is going to happen next, but you just have to embrace it, take it. And if you're doing it for a great cause, great things will come to you. And one of the things that I have realized that is, the Camino has always been great people, and with great people came great responsibilities. This sounds like a Spider-Man, but it is just helping people. And, if you can help someone else and put in a little bit of your time, and it doesn't have to be always about money, but there is always a need to make a profit, and to survive. And right now I'm the lucky one that I can, keep working on both. One of the things that was strange is that when I presented my project to the city hall here in Pamplona, I was granted with one of the prizes that they offer us a co-working space and a co-living space in the Calle Mayor, so right in the Camino. But that project was put on hold. So I was going to have, free housing, my office right there in the Camino. So I was able to, interview pilgrims right on the door. I have an idea. I'll set up a little coffee table at 6:00 a.m. in the morning and, see the pilgrims coming out of Pamplona. But COVID came, the project was on hold, it's still on hold. And here I am in my house. But, I'm still working and still doing things. And who knows what is going to happen next. My whole idea, the Camino will sell.
I love that, Jose. Like, when you set foot that first time on your Camino, like at that point, who were you then? What did you think was going to happen after? Were you just going to go back to what was your job going to be? Like, what were you thinking was going to happen?
I was open to changes. And I think, when you go to the Camino, you are looking for that time to rethink where you're going, what you're doing. And, I have a dear friend that he did a study on why people go to the Camino. No? And one of the reasons is to take a break and decide what you're doing next. So I was looking for a change, but I didn't know what the change was going to be. And I was never expecting that I was going to be where I'm right now. I'm like, if you tell me that I wasn't going to be, I'm like interviewing people of the Camino and sharing stories of the Camino, and wow, I would probably put all my money into probably something else. But
yeah,
I guess it's life and the Camino. You have to be ready and open, and when things come, and that's one of the things that I always tell people on the Camino. One day you may find someone that you don't fit with him, but chat a little bit with him, you will learn something. But the Camino will put you the right people and the right things in front of you. And these years, it seems like every day I find people like you and, the other one that opens another door and opens another door. And suddenly here I'm, designing the way for someone else or creating a marketing campaign for someone. So even though, my Camino is, I would like to work full-time Camino, I'm all the time doing Camino because everything has been going around the Camino and the people that I met in the Camino. So right now I would say I'm a full-time pilgrim.
Yeah. Do you remember a time when you were walking that first time when you realized that the Camino was going to become your life? Did you know it during that first one, or at what point were you like,
not really,
oh?
I think the biggest moment when I walked my first Camino, I would say was in Muxia, the last day in Muxia and I always tell everyone, I love Muxia. I remember arriving to Muxia super late. I ran to the albergue and I told the guy, I want to go see the sunset. And he's like, you have to be here, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay. So I was running to the Virgen de la Barca. Suddenly, I love bagpipes. I'm like, I always know that in my funeral, it's going to be bagpipes. In my wedding, I don't know, my wife will decide. But that's for her to choose. I know what I'm going to be able to do. But suddenly I arrived to Muxia and there's two bagpipers over there playing. And I'm like, wow. And that's when everything came on. And you realize the journey and everything. Yeah, that was kind of like the biggest, because my arrival in Santiago, I told my Camino family, I want to arrive in Santiago by myself. But it was a happy moment. It was one of those, like in a marathon, you get there, it's all the endorphins, you get so excited. And I was there by like 8:30, 9 o'clock. So I was one of the first pilgrims. I remember falling on the floor and a group of pilgrims or kids that were around would start clapping. I was like, yeah, I made it. But then walking to Muxia and it's like, wow. That's when you realize, that the real Camino is ahead of you. And when you just walk, it's just preparing you for that real Camino. But I think that probably there it was like, with the Camino was something more, but I guess I didn't know where I was going. I have no idea.
Yeah. Do you feel like that you were, like your walk from Santiago to Muxia, was that more solitary? Because not as many people do that leg after they finish.
I think that the beauty of walking from Santiago to Muxia, and I encourage everyone that does the full Camino, at least, a long Camino, because on the last days, if you do it in the summer, and I did mine in the summer, there's a lot of people. And, at the beginning, I used to look at those people as not pilgrims. Now my mind changed totally. So everyone is a pilgrim. You don't know what is going on inside them. Right. But I encourage everyone to walk those days because I think it's, as you say, sometimes we don't give ourselves time to review the Camino.
Yep.
The Camino is a time of review our lives and review everything. But what about reviewing the Camino? And I think, the pilgrimage finishes in Santiago because that's what the tomb is and that's, the pilgrimage. But your Camino starts in Santiago. So the best way to start your Camino is, I always say, go to Finisterre because that's where you finish with your party. Finisterre is all about parties, about going to the sunset, great people, the fire pits, going with the familia, having beers. But then Muxia is for your soul. It's a more peaceful, it's more relaxed, it's just a little village. And that's when you realize, all the things that happened those previous days. So if you're one of those that write, just, those days, use them to go through your notes. If you don't write, just think about what happened in your Camino. But I always think that time is like stretching after a long race. Sometimes we forget about it, and it's the most important time to really let our body heal and remember what we have gone through.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And I've never heard anyone, though, talk about, I love what you're saying about going to Finisterre and then going on to Muxia, what that process could look like. Because, you and I've talked in the past, so many people show up in Santiago and that's it. And the next day they hop on the plane and they go to wherever they're from. And, there's a lot to process before you start talking about what's just happened to anyone,
Wow.
It's not a vacation, and I love what you're saying here. And I hope that people that are watching will take that encouragement that you're giving and continue their walk and do some of the additional processing. I can't imagine what that moment was like when you hear these bagpipers. Go back to
the video.
Like, what was that like?
Well, I have the video, incredible. I'm like, I love bagpipe. I would love to learn to play the bagpipe, but it was incredible. Imagine, beautiful. I arrived to Finisterre. Everything was foggy, no sunset, no nothing, was horrible. But suddenly the next day, walked to Muxia, beautiful, no clouds, beautiful sun. Suddenly, like probably 20, 25 people in the Virgen de la Barca, And suddenly these two bagpipers start playing the bagpipe. And I'm like, why are you telling me this now? So you're like, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And that's what happens with the Camino. You never know what's going to happen, but when it happens, happens.
Yeah. What do you think it was about your walk that kind of opened your heart to all of these things?
I think the people, really. I think it's just listening to people's stories and how, I said, when you start walking, you're one. When you finish walking, you are 1 plus 1,000. Because you carry a little piece of everyone that has walked with you, everyone that you talk, it doesn't matter if it's the old lady in the village, the guy from the bar, the taxi driver, the lady at the supermarket. That's the beauty of the Camino, it's how you construct your new self that is going to be at the end of the Camino with those little parts that you take from everyone. And the beauty of the Camino is that it allows you to do something that you don't do on a normal daily basis because you are, self-protect. We just go with our, with our normal body face that talk to people, hi, good morning, we're in business, or we are business mode, we are with family mode. But in the Camino, we left everything behind and we are all pilgrims, and it seems like you just open to everyone and everyone opens so easily that it's just so easy and to feel related. And also, as we were talking, the Camino put you the right people in front of you. So whoever you met, probably was supposed to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So you start your walk as one, but you end up 1 plus 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. That's so true, right? And it just keeps growing.
That's the magic of the Camino. People will say, the Camino is about the walk, the Camino is about the everything, but the Camino is about the people. As I said, the first time that I walked the Camino when everything opened, it wasn't a Camino, it was a trail because there was no people.
And I just think about all the people as you're paying it forward with all the things that you're doing, right? So that's that original 1,000 that you met. And then now I feel like you're taking that and all the people that you're interviewing, all the people that you're guiding, all of that, what is it, that 6 degrees of separation, right?
And the butterfly effect, no?
Yes.
You can mix them both. But that's the thing, if I always believe if they will tell me something that I would love to do is take, politicians of big important people to the Camino.
Yeah.
And let them discover the Camino, because if we all live the Camino style, the world can be a much better place to live and we will be doing some much better things. But even pilgrims, we forget about the Camino when we're in our houses and in our normal daily basis. And that's what we were saying, if with this podcast, with these pictures, we can just take everyone and for that little moment, if it's a fraction of a second, back to the Camino and get that smile and get that feeling, they will go on the normal day differently. And, that's what is so great, that there's so many great people like you and I, sharing the Camino over there for people that are already walked the Camino, because we need to be remembered, and for people that hasn't. So encourage them to walk.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. That's the reason I love doing these interviews, is it reconnects me back to that joy, back to that great feeling that I had when I was walking on the Camino, and having this connection that is just so unique. And I think that's one of the things, like when we come back from the Camino, we want to stand on the rooftop and shout out and everybody go, because the world would be so much better if we all walked, But we all know that seed has to be planted and they have to go in their own time, right? And but until then, I think we can provide these kinds of things with all the things that you're doing, I'm doing, all the other podcasters that are out there. I'm not a writer either. So all the people that are, writing their blogs, all the people that are running the Facebook groups, we all have our skill sets. And I think it's a way for us to be giving back. So I want to make sure that viewers and listeners know that, we will have links to your website, to your Instagram and so on. So that way they can find you. And I know that one of the things that you provide, you've already done this for me, but you are a wealth of information. And so I know that, one of the things you do provide is people can contact you, right? And talk about,
of course, yeah,
and get some consulting all the way up to actually doing a walk with you or a group or things like that, right?
Yeah, so I'm a full registered guide here. One of the things that I want to do, is fill in the proper, rules and everything. So, I'm a self-employed, so I have full registration legally. I work with different companies as a guide and everything if I wanted to, but I'm not a travel agency. So if people talk to me, I will put them in touch with the ones that I think best suit them or, help them in any way. So I'm always, just willing to help in any way possible. But if they want to walk, if they need information about anything related to Spain, I think, I'm the lucky one that is here. So if I can put you right, if I can help you, that's great. And if not, I will try to do my best and put you in contact with whoever can help you.
Perfect. So you talked about, I'm just going to finish up with a few more questions. You talked about how heavy your backpack was. So, so I just wonder, when you look at, for people that are watching this and they're going to be walking their first Camino, and you said, take some extra food, but what's a luxury item that you take that I might not think about taking?
It's funny because, my backpack after many Caminos, I'm like, I have to be, and this is kind of like, it's going to sound weird, but I don't even carry underwear because, my running shorts, they have their inside underwear. So for me, and I'm like a super hot, I'm like, even in the winter, I'm with shorts. And so my backpack is super light. But one of those things that I always carry is gummy bears. I love candy. I'm a crazy candy eater. I'm like Sour Patch Kids, anything, you name it. Anything that is just, so I always have some candy in my backpack, and something to share with pilgrims. I think one of the things, I'm a hiker, and here when we hike, we always have the salami, kind of like a chorizo that, you get your knife and you share with people. And I remember my first day when walking up to St. John and you stop at the Virgin over there, and I opened my backpack, sorry, and people like, do you want? And do you want? Do you want? It's like having a guitar. I don't play the guitar, so I have always something to share with pilgrims. And I think that's kind of like so great because it gives you the intro to talk to anyone, and it gives you the option to talk. Right now, with the COVID, maybe it's a little more tricky, health issues, but still is food and you have your hands clean. But maybe that's the luxury item that I always carry. And right now in my Caminos, I don't think I carry much. Oh, right now, gear to interview people. That's a luxury item that I have always, my recorder, my mics, everything, never a computer, but it's a luxury item, and, all the camera gear. But not much. I'm like, my backpack is super light. After you walk the first Camino with too much gear and too much water and too much food, I'm like, right now, I'm like, the beauty of the Camino is that you have almost everything ready there. There's, if you don't have a village in 5K, it's going to be in 6. So other than carrying an extra water just in case, there's not really much. For me, will be, I guess, just the candy. I love candy.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love the concept of what you're talking about. And I think that's something, if we can all remember that as pilgrims, is maybe having something in your backpack that helps you connect with other people, right? You've got that candy, you can share it, and that's your thing. It might not be somebody else's, but they may have something else that they could take that's similar that would help them connect. I love that. I think that's a really great tip. And it's also,
and if you have something, from your hometown, something that can sense who you are on the first day, having some local food or some local candy or something, that's always great because it talks a story about you, but it also, gives you that option. And as I said, if you're not a musician, if you cannot carry a guitar or something, but there's always something that you can carry. I'm like, I will never take Bigamite from Australian. Sorry, that's a no-no, but you can find it here in Spain. But it's fun because the Camino is always open for that. But when you're in the middle of nowhere, there's nothing. But if you're in a bar, if you're sitting on the bench or, on a green area, having that opportunity, I will always say, I should be an Italian with a guitar and some extra in my backpack, and you are the best Camino family member ever.
Absolutely. But yeah, I took quotes. So I would have a quote of the day. And so when I would meet pilgrims, I would just like, hey, would you like a quote? And I had this bag of quotes and people could, pull that out. And I can't tell you time and time again, probably every time, people would be like, that is exactly what I needed to hear right now. And it was just a random, I just had like over 1,000 little pieces of paper with quotes. And then it became really fun because I kind of became like the quote lady, right? And so the people that I would run into over and over again would be like, hey, can I get my quote for today? So it was really fun. I think everybody can find their thing, and it's really nice. So I want to end this. We're at our time, even though I want to talk to you all day. I just want to say, there's probably somebody watching or listening right now that is contemplating going. The seed has been planted, but they kind of just need that little nudge. What would you say to encourage them to book that flight, to actually take that step?
I think that sometimes, if they're listening to this podcast, that's, what else do I need to say? The Camino always, as we said, you don't decide to walk the Camino. The Camino sends you a message or gives you a call, and you're the one that said yes or no, it's clicking on the green or clicking on the red. So if you're listening to the podcast, if you have made it all the way till here, it's like right now the Instagram is only showing me pictures, of the Shiba Inu, this dog. And like, because I'm searching for the dog, it's kind of like, oh, he wants me to buy a dog. So if you're in this podcast, I don't need to tell you anything. Go ahead, book the flights or start walking in your town. There's nothing else to say. If, you are already here, that's because your Camino already began. And that's one of the things that I tell a lot of people. The Camino doesn't, even though the other day there's a professional Camino historian told me the Camino starts when you start the pilgrimage. I will say that your inner Camino starts when that little, mini pilgrim that you have inside you is putting you on the way, Instagram pages, Facebook, YouTube, suddenly here in the podcast. So that's already, you are the only one that can say yes or no. But if you're not saying yes today, it will happen soon. That's just a matter of time.
Perfect answer. Perfect way to end this. Thank you for saying that.
Really Thank you for taking me back to the Camino, even though I'm in the Camino. But, it's funny because I start these chats, they bring me really back to the Camino. Right now we were talking, I was remembering, we were in a little albergue that has a swimming pool with a bunch of friends. We took kind of like a day off. It was my normal family with the German family. It was probably like 20 of us with a ukulele, playing music in the pool, people looking for the lyrics on their phone. So they will say, let's sing this song that is from, us. So we'll look for the lyrics and we'll be all singing. And that's the beauty of the Camino, sharing experiences, sharing moments with others. And that's what you remember, the bed bags, the beds, the albergue, they're going to be there. But the big, big memories is the people. And as you say, a lot of people will remain you for the quotes. And, that's kind of what gives you the energy to keep going. And sometimes when you're, on a normal day, just think about those moments that the Camino brought you, and that gives you the energy to keep going till you can go back to the Camino again.
Yes, totally agree. Well, good luck on that marathon in July and at the
December marathon in December. In July, we will be running to Santiago.
Yes, the running.
And running to Santiago is 20 marathons in a row. So he has to run close to 3 marathons a day, more than 3 marathons a day.
Wow. Okay, that's
so we'll be keeping people posted on the Instagram and everything. And remember that we will be trying to get funds for this nonprofit. So if anyone wants to help, it will be great. And yeah, he's crazy, but he's crazy with a good heart.
Yeah, so please, everyone that's watching and listening, please follow, if you're not already, please follow the Instagram, the Facebook accounts. Please listen to Jose's interviews with his podcast. He's been really interviewing some really fun pilgrims, some very memorable shows. I'm really enjoying them. So please check that out. And wow, Jose, please stay on. I'm going to end our interview, but please stay on so I can say an official goodbye to you. But I just want to thank everyone for listening and coming today. And Jose, I'm just so honored that you came to chat with us here at the Camino Cafe. So thank you so much.
Thanks to you. And I always say, as when people ask me, you were saying you want to walk with me, it's not walk with us, because it's us, the pilgrims. Doesn't matter where we're from, what is our name, Cafe Camino, Camino People, the Pilgrims podcast. We're all walking together. And that's the beauty of the Camino. So thank you all for listening, and thank you for inviting me to, approach more pilgrims and getting that little seat in so many people.
Oh, you're very welcome. Walk with us. Perfect way to end it. Thank you so much. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye, everyone.